Coming up on this week's episode of TechSNAP, a CloudFlare outage takes out 750,000 websites. We'll tell you what went wrong, plus some old school malware that gets the job done, a big batch of your questions, our answers, and much, much more on this week's episode of TechSNAP. Hi everyone, and welcome to TechSNAP. This is episode 102 of Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly systems network and administration podcast. We stream this episode live on March 21st, 2013. This episode's brought to you by our two fine sponsors, GoDaddy.com and Ting.com. I'll tell you more about both those sponsors as the show goes on. And the live stream is powered by the incredible Scale Engine. Go check it out. It's scaleengine.com. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week back in the Canadian wilderness is our host, the admin, the tech, and the teacher, Mr. Allan Jude. Hey there, Allan.
Hey, Chris, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Allan. And I guess I should say welcome back from Tokyo, too, right? You just got home.
Yes. Asia BSDCon was amazing.
Was it? Did it go really well?
Yes.
Well, you look good, too. You're wearing your TechSNAP 100 shirt, so
yes,
you're styling. We're both...
My face is on my shirt.
Yep. Yeah, we both have your face on our chest for this week's episode. Are you tired? Are you jet lagged? Or are you okay? You ready for a show?
I'm pretty okay.
I'm pretty okay.
Well, I'm not horrible, but I've been better before.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 2. So, I'm good.
No, on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 5, right?
Okay.
It's pretty okay.
All
Maybe
right.
Even a 6.
Wow. Okay. Well, geez. I mean, usually on a good week, you're only in the 7 range.
Really? Screw you.
I'm just kidding, Allan. All right. Well, did you have any stories you're going to share with us, or do we have to wait to hear about the hijinks?
There's some. We'll do at the top of the feedback. I'll show you some of the cool devices I brought back from Japan.
Ooh, all right. Well, very good. Okay, well, we got a big show today, go figure. And some of the things that have gone on, Allan, even though you've been in the air, flying around, you've still managed to track some of the events that have happened, including...
Well, this first story was actually
before you left.
To be in episode 101.
Okay. You
it was supposed to be in episode 101, but we ran out of time writing the show notes.
But
even though I spent 2 entire days writing show notes, I ran out of time writing show notes.
It doesn't mean you didn't. Yeah. So what you have to do is you need to hire a couple of assistants, maybe like a production team, right? So we need to get the TechSNAP team that does all the research for you, and then you just sit down on a.
Well, they can't do it all because then I wouldn't know what I was talking about. I would just be reading off the paper, and that wouldn't work either. But
that doesn't seem to stop other podcasts.
Yeah, but that's what makes TechSNAP different.
Bingo. All right, Allan. Well, why don't we jump into our first story? This one affects anyone using the CloudFlare service, right? Or did affect anyone?
Yes,
using CloudFlare.
It did affect anyone using it. People using CloudFlare, which apparently is 750,000 websites, were knocked offline. So CloudFlare is what's called a web application firewall. Basically, they run all the requests through some analytics and try to figure out if it's an attack. So they look for like SQL injection and stuff like that in the get and post requests and block anything they determine to be malicious. So they've had a number of outages in the past, some of them only partial, some of them full, and so on. And we've talked about those on the show. But in this particular case, all the sites hosted by CloudFlare went down at around March 3rd at around 9:47 UTC, which is about 4:40 a.m. in the East Coast and 1:30 a.m. on the West Coast.
Okay.
But it took down not only their web servers, but also their DNS servers, any mail that they were hosting, and all kinds of other stuff. And basically, any attempt to connect to any site hosted by CloudFlare would return no route to host. This is because what actually happened was a problem with the routers where basically the routers went offline, and so all the BGP routes to their IPs all over the world went offline. So everywhere in the world, no routers could find a way to get to CloudFlare because all the routers were off. Service was restored about an hour later.
Okay. So an hour outage, but this is something that I guess it just must have spread around, right?
Yeah. Unlike their previous outages, this one took down all 23 of their data centers.
Wow. So this is something they pushed out to all of their devices? Is that what happened?
Yes. According to CloudFlare, they originally detected a denial of service attack against one or more of their customers' DNS servers. And so they moved to filter that attack. Because they have like some profiling software that they wrote that determines what the attack packets look like and then writes a rule to block those. However, their attack profiling software reported that the attack packets were between 99,971 bytes and 99,985 bytes. So they're saying the packets are these specific sizes. So we'll just put it in a router rule to block all packets of those particular sizes.
Okay. All right. So far, I'm liking this.
Which seems fine.
Yeah.
The problem is packets can't ever be that large. It's actually impossible because IP, which is layer 3 of the OSI model, has a packet size limit of 65,535.
Right.
Because the field that holds the size of the packet in the header of an IP packet is only 16 bits. So 2 to the power of 16 is 65,536 minus 1 because it's base 0. So that's, a packet can't be bigger than 64 kilobytes, and they're claiming to have like 100 kilobyte packets.
Mm-hmm.
Also, most all layer 2 protocols like Ethernet impose a much smaller frame size limit, right? The default for Ethernet is 1,500 bytes, right? So you're not going to actually end up with packets bigger than 1,500 bytes. And the CloudFlare network, they were using jumbo frames, so they could take packets up to 4,470 bytes. But even then, that's not 100 kilobytes, right? So they were using Juniper routers, which are based on FreeBSD, and they have Juniper has this protocol called FlowSpec, which allows you to push rules out to all your routers to block certain packets and so on.
Okay.
So they pushed out this rule that they have an example of on their website in the link here to block these impossibly sized packets.
Mm-hmm.
The routers accepted the rules, right? They didn't throw like a parsing error saying, that size is outside a valid range of possible sizes. But instead, the routers started exhausting all of the RAM that they had trying to match these packets. And yeah, so it was probably a bug related to the fact that the rule was invalid, but it wasn't detected as being invalid.
Right. So it's kind of a double whammy because the software could have been smart enough to say, hey, you can't do that.
Right. But then again, the software was never tested for someone doing something that didn't make any
shouldn't be
sense.
possible, right?
Right. So it's hard to place blame on anybody for this one. It just kind of happens. But yeah, when the routers ran out of RAM, some of them rebooted and some of them hard locked. So the ones that rebooted would just keep rebooting because they'd reload the rules and then have the same problem. So basically, a bunch of routers froze up and the rest were in a continuous reboot loop.
Ouch.
Yeah. So because some of the routers had froze up entirely, they didn't respond on their management interface anymore. So they couldn't remotely control the routers anymore. So they had to have the devices manually powered cycled at all 23 different data centers in 14 different countries.
What an effort
Probably
just that
across
would be.
Quite a number of time zones.
Yeah, just getting that pulled
They
off.
had to wake people up in a lot of different time zones to have them fix things. But yeah, when the routers were down, the routes were drawn or expired across the whole internet, and nobody anywhere on the internet could reach Cloudflare.
They just disappeared, including Cloudflare's own website. And their only communications channel to let their customers know what was going on was Twitter, because you couldn't go to like the Cloudflare blog.
Yes. Now, a lot of hosting companies now will have a separate domain.
Right, which we recommend on the show. Like a Tumblr page or something like that.
Yeah, or even just your own domain hosted somewhere. Just host it somewhere else.
Right. Well, and in this case, Twitter did the job.
Yeah, Twitter does the job, but having an official website is better, and an RSS feed sometimes is very nice.
The trick there is letting people know, so that way when there's an outage, they know where to go, right? Because I think one of the problems people are going to start to have is Twitter is just kind of like, I'm going to go to Twitter now to check on this kind of stuff. And
right, but not everybody uses Twitter.
What about something like, something that you've actually talked about before is like, would some sort of DNS failover system have worked in this kind of an outage where maybe they could have had, easy DNS send them to another page?
Yes, although they were running their own DNS servers and those were down. Okay. So if they did it themselves, it wouldn't have done it good.
No good.
So they would have to, and since they're trying to be a DNS provider, having to use somebody else's DNS.
Yeah, that doesn't look good.
Right.
That would be pretty embarrassing.
Maybe they should consider it for their own domain. The way we do it at Scale Engine is there's scaleengine.com, which is our website, but all of our infrastructure is based on .net. So the two can be separated. So we can literally, we could move the whole website and DNS and everything from scaleengine.com to somewhere else if we needed to.
Nice.
There are backups of it on other servers, and we have DNS failover configured for it, actually. But anyway, So Cloudflare is working with Juniper to see if this was a bug in FlowSpec or if it was just a problem caused by their ridiculous rules.
Right. I'm sure they'd love to be able to point to Juniper and say, well, really, they should have fixed this. Huh.
Yeah. And Cloudflare is also attempting to find a way to be able to use FlowSpec, but to have it push rules only to a specific subset of routers. Right? So if the attack was only happening in the States, they could have deployed this rule to only the American routers. Those would have went down, traffic would have failed over to Europe, but at least the websites would have still been up. But at the moment, the whole point of FlowSpec is to push it to all your routers at once. So it doesn't seem to have a feature to say, I only want to do some of my routers.
I could see having test groups and things like that, but that's probably in how you configure it.
Yeah, and anyway, they have an official post-mortem blog post that kind of goes into some more detail if you'd like to know more about it. There's also a video there of what it looked like as their routes fell off, as they fell off the internet.
This is my favorite thing that they put out because you can really watch
Well, they didn't make it. Somebody else did. I think it was the guy that had made a similar video about when Syria disconnected itself.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I think it was that guy, and he happened to see Cloudflare do something similar, or basically noting how similar the two events looked. Right?
Well, what's fascinating about it is to watch. You watch some of these routers essentially attempt to redirect, and they increasingly choose less and less efficient routes until they just can't make it.
Watch the routes get worse and worse until it's just like nope.
Yeah. Which is it's almost like watching an animal try to survive in a way. Like when you spray a bug with spray or something, it's struggling to live.
Yes.
No, I think I have spiders on the mind, but it's really kind of a neat. It's a neat video that somebody's put out. The way I've linked to the show notes, and if you want, or actually,
I think it was a professor or something. There's credit for it in the article.
Yeah, which is pretty neat to watch it actually go down. Cool, Alan. Anything else on that one?
No, that's it for that one.
All right, then let's take a moment right here and thank one of our sponsors this week, the fantastic folks over at Ting.com. Ting is mobile that makes sense. You know what, Alan, now, before you left, had my Note 2 arrived?
No.
Okay, I got it. I got the Note 2.
Because you ordered it while I was there, right?
Right. So that's right. I cashed out my Bitcoins while you were here. And man, I cashed them out like way low. Anyways, so now I've got the
like 45 instead of 60.
But hey, I paid for the phone, so I'm happy. So now I've got the Note 2 on my Ting service, and I tell you, I am happy. Now, Ting is mobile that makes sense. They're an MVNO based.
You don't want to know
what?
I just checked. Bitcoin's at $77.75.
I have a Bitcoin widget on my Note 2 to remind me, so I'm actually tracking it in constantly every time I bring my phone up. And then I'm like, maybe I could buy another phone. No, Ting is awesome. In fact, you don't have to worry about selling Bitcoins in order to afford Ting because they are contract free, which means you get in and you don't have to worry about early terminations. You don't have to worry about that contract or anything like that. It's just mobile that makes sense. No overage penalties either. If you use more than you thought you would, you just pay for what you used. And here's the best part. I love this about Ting. They credit you on your unused service. If you use less than you thought you would, Ting drops you down to the level and hits you with the credit difference on your next bill. So like me, I am a low minutes user. And if I pick the wrong minutes plan, I say, I don't want 300 minutes, and I end up only using 100 minutes, they're not just going to cash that in and say, sorry, sucker. They're going to credit your account for that. Who does that? Nobody does that except for Ting.com. Yeah. The other thing I think is really great is they have some fantastic plans, and the fact that you can mix and match the plans so that way you get as much voice or data as you need for what you need to do. Mm-hmm. I also like that everything in the data line here comes with tethering and hotspotting built in. So look, if you go over to TechSNAP.ting.com, you're going to get $25 off your Ting device or a $25 credit towards your Ting service. Don't forget, Ting also has excellent customer service. If you call them between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern, you get a real person. Yes. An actual, honest-to-gosh, real person who's going to answer your questions. Try it out. Give him a call. Call him at 1-855-TING-FTW. And the other thing that's great about that is if you hook them up with a family member, so for their easy $6 a month flat rate when you add another line, and then that family member gets stuck, you just give them the phone number. You know somebody's actually going to pick up the phone and help them, and they're not going to straddle you with having to be the support person, because we all get stuck with that job in our, right? In your family and around your friends, you're always into being the tech support person. No. Have them call Ting. That's what Ting's there for. They're just mobile that makes sense. We love them, and they're a no BS mobile service. If you've got good Sprint coverage in your area, then you're going to get great Ting service. So go over to TechSNAP.ting.com, visit that to let them know that you appreciate them supporting the show and to check out their offerings. And then while you're there, if you've gone to TechSNAP.ting.com, they'll automatically apply that $25 credit to any device you get. Great for small business, too. If you've got a little office or a big office or a medium office, go check out TechSNAP.ting.com. And thanks to Ting for sponsoring the TechSNAP program.
Yes. I was just amazed at I just looked up the roaming rates. Because while I was in Japan on my cell phone, it was $10 a megabyte for internet.
I know, dude. I know. It is crazy.
Ting is $2.
Yeah, Ting.
Or like text messages. Mine was 60 cents a piece in both directions. Ting is 5 cents to receive, which is much more reasonable, obviously, and 50 cents to send, which is still better.
Honestly,
having a lower rate for receiving would have solved my life. It would have saved me a whole bunch of money.
This is why I'm so happy they're sponsoring us, because people like you and I and people in our audience, we are not the average telco consumer. We don't use our devices quite like the way average users do, and we have different needs and we have different expectations from our cell phone service. This Ting matches my needs and my usage, and that's what I love about it. And you know, the fact that I activated my entire account, transferred my Evo 4G and all of that online within like 15 minutes, super slick.
Yes.
I love their site design
quick,
too.
but also you don't have to talk to a person if you don't want to.
If you don't want, but if you do want to,
you can if you want to.
Right. I love that. So go check out TechSNAP.ting.com. Thanks to them for sponsoring the TechSNAP program. All right, Allan, what do you say we move on to something that, Ars Technica wrote up about? It was decade-old espionage malware, right?
Yes. So this one's interesting. We've talked a lot about malware like Stuxnet and Dooku and Red October and one other one, and how they've been like super advanced and crazy programming and stuff.
Yeah.
And this story is about one that's been going on for 10 years, and it uses TeamViewer.
Yeah.
They're like, why write our own stuff when we can just, trick people into running TeamViewer and so on?
Well, you know what? Honestly, you really can.
Yep.
Why not?
Yeah. Researchers discovered a malware attack that's been ongoing for 10 years, and it uses the off-the-shelf remote administration tools, TeamViewer, and some proprietary malware. And specifically, this attack targets people in certain places and steals encryption keys and documents.
People in certain places?
We'll get to the list in a second.
Oh.
But they went after people that have encryption keys, but also people that have documents labeled as secret, right? So they went after like Microsoft Access databases and Excel docs and stuff like that, but also some proprietary government type encryption and stuff.
So it knew what it was looking for.
Yeah. They managed to exfiltrate encryption keys and some of these documents from an unidentified country that's a member of NATO and the EU. Their embassy. So basically, their embassy in Russia had computers that were compromised.
So it was Russian computers that got compromised?
No, it was the embassy of some country that's in the European Union and a member of NATO. Their embassy in Russia.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, some industrial manufacturers in Russia have been compromised. A bunch of research and educational institutions in France and Belgium, and some very high-profile person in the Hungarian government had their computer compromised.
Ooh, high profile.
Yeah. So these attacks were mostly targeting countries in the CIS and the EU, but also partly in the Middle East as well. So Kaspersky has some of their own research on it. The company that found this spyware originally is from Hungary, because the some Hungarian law enforcement or intelligence agency approached them about when they found that the Hungarian government had been targeted, and then it kind of spread from there. And so the company from Hungary called CrySyS and Kaspersky each have papers on the subject. And Kaspersky's research indicates that the threat actors were most likely Russian-speaking, because a bunch of the malware scripts do things like change the character set to Russian or Cyrillic, and also the version of TeamViewer that was used is the Russian localized version. Includes an extra DLL file so that it can speak Russian. They also found a few possible links to the Red October malware. So maybe Red October, which is really advanced, originally started much simpler than that. They also found some links to a particular Russian banking fraud group. So this attack might not have been government related. It might have actually been regular type cybercrime.
Legitimate
individual actors rather than
state
actors.
Right. It's not legitimate. That's not the right word.
Yeah, right. But anyway, there's 2 papers there that you might want to take a look at.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of the PDFs right now. They've got they have the character sets broken out in there, and they've got some of the people who are infected, how their bandwidth was dramatically impacted in terms of usage. Kind of interesting,
right? Especially TeamViewer, because it's
remote,
like a JPEG shot of the screen constantly. Right? It's not as low bandwidth as something like Microsoft Remote Desktop,
or even an IRC bot.
Like we talked about, Remote Desktop does the API calls to draw the window on the other side rather than sending JPEGs of the window.
Right. Huh. So Kaspersky, once again.
Yeah.
Very impressive, these guys. Did I just hear Outlook? Do you have Outlook?
No, it's just the default Windows. Thunderbird makes the default Windows sound. Right. It uses your Windows sound profile.
This is whenever I hear that sound, I'm always at a client, and everybody at the client's using Outlook. So I just I got chills. It reminded me. Do I have a meeting reminder? Is that what that was? Somebody just sent me a contact. What is that? Yeah. What's going on? All right, Allan. Any other thoughts on the old malware?
No, but the papers have a lot more detail than I managed to extract in the short amount of time I had.
So the BBC, their Twitter account got compromised. Is that correct?
Well, not their main Twitter account, but 3 of their specific Twitter accounts.
Okay. Like their...
So the BBC Weather Twitter account, the BBC Aravik, and the BBC Ulster Radio.
Okay, all right. The weather one's my favorite.
Yes, well, especially some of the tweets that get posted.
Okay.
So those accounts were compromised, and a bunch of unauthorized tweets were posted. According to a quote from the BBC, the attacks began in the early afternoon on Thursday. Remember that they're 4 hours ahead of us right now, or 5 hours ahead, something like that. So anyway, the attack started early in the afternoon on Thursday. At the same time, BBC staff were alerted to a phishing email that had been sent to a bunch of BBC email accounts. It's not clear if the two are related, but that might explain how they compromised the Twitter accounts. And then the attacks were apparently the work of the Syrian Electronic Army, which is a hacking group that has been pro-Assad. Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria. Syria is kind of in the middle of a civil war between the current government and
just a smidge.
Yeah. But some of the humorous tweets that were posted read like, Saudi weather station down due to head-on collision with camel. Or chaotic weather forecast for Lebanon as the government decides to distance itself from the Milky Way.
Wait a minute. So they didn't post any like pro-regime stuff?
There was some pro-regime stuff as well, but those were 2 of the funny ones.
Okay.
And then one, they said, the Syrian Electronic Army was here. So that's how they claim credit, by posting that message.
Oh, well, I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
Well, they did it with the compromised account, so that leads more credence to them saying they did it after the fact via their own Twitter or something like that, right?
That's pretty good. I like them moving further away from the Milky Way comment.
Yes. Now, the accounts are now back under the control of the BBC, even though my show notes say not. It actually says now. Damn typo.
I wonder, what's funny is, I don't know if you've seen some of the follow-up, but almost every time somebody's Twitter account gets hacked, they end up with like way more followers, like as a result. I don't know what it is about the reverse psychology of people there, but like,
or it might just be, I could get the weather via Twitter.
It's got to be partially that, and then maybe you figure they might get hacked again, and you want to see the show. Could be some of that too.
That too.
Yeah. Well,
the hacked account gets retweeted a lot, right? The funny messages or whatever, and then people end up following it.
So by hacked, we actually could mean somebody got emailed and was tricked into. It could be malware, or it could have been.
Well, yeah. It seems most likely they were tricked into giving away the Twitter password.
And is that a hack?
Social engineering, but not necessarily.
I guess. Yeah. It's just everything's a hack. The term hack
has been abused so badly, it's unrecognizable now.
Yeah, you're right about that.
But yeah, it's still not clear how the accounts were actually compromised, but it seems likely it was related to the phishing attack.
it's almost been like every week we hear about it. So, and a lot of times it is passwords. But,
Yep.
The other thing
especially, it's interesting, especially, like a Twitter account for the BBC probably has some application or something to post to it so that it can be easily shared with a lot of people. Otherwise, you'd have to have a lot of people at the BBC with the password for that account or something.
Yeah, no, I know they have management.
Like you're saying, it may more likely have been install malware on someone's computer and then use their rights to post to Twitter.
Well,
rather than actually knowing the password to the Twitter account.
They did get several accounts, right? So then so maybe they got an app that manages.
So maybe rather than actually managing to get the password for the Twitter account, they just got control of a computer that had access to post to the Twitter accounts.
Me think so.
I'm imagining that the BBC has some, master application that controls all their Twitter accounts.
Right. One big TweetDeck machine. Everybody, if you want to post something, you got to walk over to the TweetDeck computer. We've got just the right version of Adobe Air installed. Don't touch it. All right, well, any other thoughts on that story?
No, that's
all
good.
Right. Then I'd like to thank our second sponsor this week. You know I love these guys. GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy.com, longtime supporters of the TechSNAP program. And did you know that they are rocking an awesome deal for you guys? Did you know that if you had something fancy that you wanted to try, we have an offer that expires at the end of this month. All done. So next week is pretty much going to be your last week to take advantage of our very special GoDaddy.com offer. Now, here it is. If you use the code HostDeal4 when you check out, HostDeal4 when you check out, guess what you're going to get? You know what you're going to get? That? Hosting for $1 for a year. Hosting for $1 for a year when you go over to GoDaddy.com and use the code HostDeal4. I love that. That's just unbelievably a good deal. Get the economy plan for $1 a year if you want to try something out, put something online. Get that computer off your home network. Use this as the opportunity to do that. Go use the code HostDeal4 when you're checking out. Or if you're not getting some hosting, maybe you want to do something else, use the code GO35 off 4 and you'll get 35% off your entire order. So that's great for all kinds of things. Go35 off 4 and HostDeal4, which expire at the end of the month, folks. So I don't think we're going to get $1 hosting anytime soon again. I thought it kind of seems like at that point they're giving away server space. So I think you're going to have to take advantage of that pretty soon. HostDeal4 to get that $1 a month hosting for a year on that economy plan. And thank you to GoDaddy for the longtime support of the TechSNAP program. We love you guys, and we appreciate all of you visiting the links to our sponsors in our show notes to let them know that you also appreciate them supporting the TechSNAP program.
For sure.
All right, Mr. Jude, anything else we want to cover in the news?
They know we appreciate it. It's you that matter.
Yeah, exactly. They know. They have no doubts there. All right, so I think that was everything we had in the news, right?
Yep.
All right, then you know what that means. The only thing left, well, that's not true at all. But the next thing is the TechSNAP feedback. Thanks for sending your feedback to TechSNAP at jupiterbroadcasting.com or popping that contact link at the top of our website, or heck, starting a thread in our subreddit over at links.techsnap.tv. Allan, what do you say before we get to the emails, though? You teased at the top of the show, little gadget time. What you got?
Yes. While I was in Japan, I made multiple trips to Akihabara, which is this little district in Tokyo called Electric City, and or Electric Town. And basically, it's where all the computer and electronic shops are and stuff. And so we went into this one place called Yoshibashi Camera. And it's like 9-story electronics store.
Oh,
they have some other stuff in there too. But so we went around and we found some of the most interesting devices ever. The first one is this. You can't see it, but
that is a
5-port switch.
It looks like it's
very small.
Very small, yeah.
And powered by USB.
USB powered switch, so you could have. Oh, that's great for like booths and stuff.
When you're traveling, very small, very handy.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I could use that at Linux Fest.
Yes, if you're say in a country like Poland or something that has different power, you don't have to drag an adapter for it.
Oh.
Or explode your switch by plugging it into a plug adapter instead of a voltage adapter, which I did in Poland.
Ouch.
Yes, and it's 1,200 yen, so that's about $12 or $13 American.
That's really good.
Or about $12 or $13 Canadian. And yeah, it does the whole thing. It's pretty awesome.
That's a good score.
Or like one of the other guys bought me. He's like, I'm doing a talk at the front of the room, right? And I'm going to have 2 laptops because I'm going to be showing off some networking stuff. That, right? Or another guy is an OpenBSD developer, and he works on PF, right? The firewall. And he's like, well, we have these hackathons, but I only bring laptops because the hackathons are far away. And so one of these means it doesn't take any extra power, and it works in every country, and it is a 5-port switch for $12.
That's brilliant. The only thing that would make it better is if the USB port also acted as a network interface. Right? So if it wasn't just for power, if it also was like a network interface, that'd be cool. All right, what else did you get?
That brings me to my second device. Here's the package from it. There's literally like no English on it.
This is empty.
Yes, I've opened it and used the device already.
Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So here's the device.
All right.
It's very tiny. This is a wireless access point. It's got 2 ports. So basically, in our hotel room, there is one Ethernet drop, right? There's an Ethernet cable sitting on the desk, and you plug it into your laptop, whatever. It's like, yeah, but I need to get online on my phone, right? Or whatever.
Right.
So you plug your room internet in here.
Okay.
And then you plug your laptop in here. So your laptop still has a wired connection, right?
Yeah.
And this then, via USB power, runs an access point.
Very nice.
In either access point mode, router mode, or as a media bridge.
So my laptop can be wired, but I can have like my Nexus 7 there and have it be on the Wi-Fi of my room.
Yes.
That is. They got to sell that here. That is great.
And as you can see here, cost about $18.
What's that called? Do they sell that here in the United States of America?
Nope. No, I've never seen one over here. Oh, it's wireless N, not
what?
G.
How come this thing exists and we don't have it?
Now, I haven't got to the best part. This does not do 1 SSID. It does not do 2 SSIDs. It does 5 SSIDs.
Why?
Well, the default is to have a secure, like the default when you take it out of the package and plug it in, like it's got the password and stuff written on the back.
Okay.
It makes a PC, an access point called AP-PC and then a random number. And that's the access point for your PC that has a password.
Okay.
And it also makes a second AP called AP-game, which is for your consoles and stuff, and it has no password.
Brilliant.
So the traffic to and from your Xbox doesn't necessarily need to be encrypted.
No.
Right? It's easier to configure your Xbox to use unencrypted Wi-Fi. But the traffic to and from your laptop can be AES 256 web or WPA or whatever it's called.
I love
PSK.
that. I love that.
So it can do up to 5 of those SSIDs, and you can configure those SSIDs with VLANs.
Wow.
So when I plug this into my switch downstairs and put it in AP mode instead of router mode, I can then set it up so that I have an AP for my stuff up in my house upstairs, an AP for my office in the basement on separate VLANs, and an AP for guest people that come over with a shorter password that I can just tell people, whereas my regular LAN password is really long and complicated. Right?
That first of all, I almost wonder if we'd ever even get something that technical in the general consumer market here.
Possibly not.
I wonder if that was massively successful, would you have like a bunch of them spamming the airspace? Because since they have multiple SSIDs.
Well, they're fairly low power.
Oh, okay.
And by default, it only does the 2 SSIDs. You have to go and configure the other ones if you want.
Oh, so how's the admin interface to it? Is it
it's a little web admin interface?
Is it in English?
Yes, they have. Is in English, Japanese, and a bunch of other languages.
Oh, see? Okay, then they need to make one for us.
Yep.
All right.
And the random part of the SSID at the end is the last 3 sets of the MAC address. The last 6 characters of the MAC address.
Okay, that's clever.
And the default IPs it uses are .250 and .249, so it doesn't jump on top of any other routers you might have.
Right, they're tucked up. Most stuff that's out of the box is down in the
right,
low
because
range.
One of the modes it has is like if you just want to use it as a media extender or whatever to connect your Xbox where you don't have wired, but don't want to interfere with your regular wireless or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they show on the back here you can use it to, bridge to your cell phone and your laptop, or use it with your laptop to bridge to your cell phone and your Wii. What's the tiny handheld Wii thing called?
The not the DS, but the
3DS. Yeah,
3DS. Yeah,
and so on. And they have another version here that's like using it to run your TV and an external hard drive and stuff.
Oh, man, jeez, we don't have.
Yeah, so it can extend your regular wireless as well.
Now I feel like you came down to the United States, and the best you got when you're down here was a big cookie, because we don't have.
The cookie was awesome. But
wasn't that a good cookie though? Yeah,
yes.
I know. Yeah, but we don't have cool toys like that. Did you get anything else?
Yep. I bought a couple of little USB power adapters, right? It gives you a couple of USB ports.
Oh, that's nice. Nice and again, very compact.
I got a big one that has 4 ports.
Ooh.
Because I realize now, when I'm traveling, well, the other thing is this one will accept voltage up to the 240 volts. So I only need a plug adapter, not a voltage adapter.
Very good.
But yeah, I plugged this in, and it's got the 4 ports, so I can charge my phone, my Kindle, run the wireless access point, and a switch off of this. Off one outlet.
Do they kind of is like USB just like becoming the total universal charging standard over there?
Kind of. But I also bought this for my laptop. So, on your regular laptop, you have a little power brick, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have a cable that goes from the wall to the power brick, and then the power brick next to your laptop.
Yeah.
Well, this goes in line, right? It the line from the wall goes into the little box here, and then this goes into your power brick.
Oh,
so basically,
my
it just
gosh.
sits between the two and gives you 2 ungrounded outlets.
So, because that obviously that adapter does not need all of the juice the main lines bring it in there, and so you put this between.
Yeah.
So you put this before the box, before the adapter.
Yeah, before the adapter.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so, if I'm in Poland, I'm using my and I'm plugging this into the voltage adapter, then these 2 extra ports are also on that voltage adapter. Now I have to be careful because the voltage adapter only does like 100 watts or whatever. But mostly it just means that, if I only have one, or like when I was on the airplane,
yes,
they had an outlet at the seat, but you only get one.
Yeah.
Well, if I want to plug 2 things in, this works.
So
it's like a tiny portable power bar.
That I have needed that in my life for about 10 years. And I didn't even realize what a hole I had in my heart until I saw that.
Until you saw the damn thing.
It makes so much sense. It's unbelievable. Wow. You got to go all the way to Japan.
Then I looked at a bunch of Bluetooth keyboards.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
And also, they had a whole aisle of just keyboards, and they had like those Cherry MX switches. Like I have the MX Blues in my keyboard.
Yeah.
They had the red, the brown, the blue, and the gray. And I got to try them all. I still like the blue the best, but the red is awfully squishy. But anyway, so they had the Bluetooth keyboards, and I looked through a bunch of them. They basically ranged in price from like over $100, and there was 70 and 60. But I managed to get this nice little one here for $20.
Ooh, it looks like it's got the full range of F keys, or at least up to F9 on up top too, which is nice.
No, it goes right up to F12.
Oh, it does. Oh, I see. I see. Yep. There's like a little FN button, right? That gives you another row.
No, it goes all the way across.
That is so neat.
Does it have scroll lock? Because I've learned by coincidence that my laptop does not have scroll lock.
What do you use scroll lock for, Alan?
In BSD, if you press scroll lock, you can scroll back up in the console. It gives you a buffer of your console.
Very handy.
This does, in fact, have scroll lock under the function key. So I could use this with my laptop in order to get the keys that are missing.
What are you planning to use that with?
My phone, mostly. But
okay. Yeah. Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
It's Bluetooth. It works with anything.
Yeah. Maybe, is there a Raspberry Pi Bluetooth module? That might be a nice little keyboard for the Pi.
You could buy a little USB one as long as it was supported by whatever operating system you're running on your Raspberry Pi. Because that's not a bad idea.
That's cool. Man, good stash.
Yes.
And all very portable.
This Wi-Fi thing is awesome.
That is really cool. Do you know, is it a name that you recognize that makes it?
It's a company that has a website.
Oh, yeah?
It's called Planex, Planex.
Planex?
Yeah, and the model number is MZK-RP150N.
Well, they're not...
It's 150 megabyte wireless N. It's Planex.jp or...
I see Planex.net. Looks like they're selling some sort of
Wi-Fi
stuff.
I tweeted a URL to the specs page and everything for this on my Twitter account a couple days ago. If you browse through my tweets, you'll see it.
There you go. Go to twitter.com/AllanJude. Oh no. Oh no. I think it's on Amazon for $11. No effing way.
Really?
No. It's on Amazon Plan X Wireless N. Here's the N version for $70. Right? Is this it, Allan? Do you think this is it? Does it have yours have a little USB port on it?
Well, yeah, that's how it gets power.
That is so awesome.
You have a link? Somebody linked the Japanese one.
I just put a link to it in the IRC. I'm going to put this in the show notes.
That's not exactly the same, but it looks similar.
This one has a print server on it, too.
That actually has, I see an actual USB port. Yeah, that's different.
Okay, this kind of seems
the same one.
Seems kind of like the same concept, though.
Yeah, it's from the same company.
Fulfilled
but that only has
Amazon.
one LAN port.
Yeah.
Where mine has 10.
Oh,
sorry, mine has 2, not 10, 2. And that has a print server and stuff, but that's
print server is kind of neat, though. Actually.
Yeah.
So Plan X is.
I kind of wish I had bought more than one, because I'm going to build this into the infrastructure of my house and then have to take it with me every time I travel.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes. That way I have it noted for myself at least, because I might want to pick that up for myself. That is really cool. All right. Well, Allan, good trip, huh?
Yes.
And how did the live streaming work out? Did that work out okay?
It worked out good. The fact that we were 11 hours off home time zone meant that when the talk started at like 9 or 10 a.m. in Japan, it was already like 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. On the West Coast and like 1 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And still like 4 a.m. in Europe. So not that many people got to watch, but the videos will be posted to YouTube in a couple of weeks.
Geek F00 in the chat room linked me to a Netgear. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It looks like Netgear, but it's a XyXL wireless and pocket travel router that has some of the same functionality I like about yours. I like that it gets power from USB. That is.
Yes, and the retail price on the Plan X website is $35, and I paid $18.
Yeah, and it looked like $39 on Amazon for the one that had the print server. And here it is, and here's the Japanese
I don't know what the one I looked at the print server was $69.
Translate. I'm going to translate it. Let's see here. It's the
the one you linked with the print server was $69.
Yeah. There's a couple different ones.
Yeah,
with different stuff. But now I want all of them. The thing I want the most is that power splitter thing that you have, though. That's just brilliant. All right, should we get to our first email?
Yep.
All right, it comes from.
Find the show doc again once.
I know. I had all these Amazon things up. It comes from Algerendo. Algerendo. He says, "Hi, Allan and Chris. This is Algerendo." He says, "No Gaga, please." Maybe he means ganja. I'm not sure. Thanks for all the help you give us. He says, I have a few questions for Allan about Puppet. I've seen that Allan has implemented Puppet at Scale Engine, and he always talks about how wonderful it is. But I've been checking out about Puppet, and it does look really cool. However, there's a downside. To access the web console, you need to go for the enterprise version, which is about $100 per host. So my question is this, Allan. What are you implementing at Scale Engine? And could you also recommend where to start besides downloading the Puppet VM? Thanks. Keep up the great work. TechSNAP is the best sysadmin podcast I've ever seen. He also wants us to add Amazon.es to that Chrome extension. All right, we'll think about it.
Right.
So, Allan.
I don't use a web interface. What kind of an admin are you using a web interface?
No, you do. You use the command line, right?
I don't use the enterprise version.
Yeah.
I use the standard open source one, and I just configure it and restart the service. I'd like to look at the web interface someday, but I've never had time to play with it.
I would say, Altorendo, if you are curious about Puppet, tune in to this Sunday's coming episode of the Linux Action Show. We have a very special guest stopping by to talk about Puppet, and you'll get some insights and how it works in a worldwide deployment.
Yeah. Now, rather than just downloading that VM, the whole idea of the VM is that you go through their little course that teaches you Puppet. And I highly recommend it. Basically, you get the VM and it's barely set up, and then you go through the process of setting up Puppet, creating some manifests, actually making it apply stuff, and then you could set up a second VM and set up proper like master slave instead of just the or let's go like master and agent, but rather than just doing the local agent applications and stuff. And you could set up get it to the point where you can start a new VM with a empty install of whatever OS you like, install Puppet, and then have it configure everything else and install the packages you want and do everything from scratch. And then, can apply it. Basically, after you've done the little training thing they give you, you use the manual to figure out, when you want to do something, you just look it up in the manual, right? It was like, oh, I want to have this file have these permissions or have no permissions, or I want to create this empty directory. I want to create this symbolic link. And it's all just how you define the resources in the manifest files. It's actually pretty straightforward.
I like it, Alan.
Yep.
All right, we have 2 emails that almost kind of go together. Both Ash emailed in and Eamon emailed in. And so Ash says, hey guys, I've been listening for about 6 months to Last and TechSNAP. I really love the 2 shows. And he says, go BSD! So he's got a question. He's wondering what we're doing about Google Reader shutting down, which matches Eamon's email. He writes in, recently my growing frustration and dissatisfaction with Google's choices has come to a head. And although I'm deeply invested in their ecosystem, I've decided to abandon ship and plan my exit strategy. While I really like many of the features Google offers and find Google Plus surprisingly useful, what I don't like is as follows. Their insistence on breaking standards to include features incompatible with any platforms that isn't their own without the option to turn on them off, e.g. email labels, contact groups, etc. Number 2, increasingly invasive behavior. Number 3, dropping support for CalDAV API. Number 4, killing support for ActiveSync. Number 5, killing Reader. And number 6, not implementing native support for CalDAV or CardDAV in Android. While none of these issues are deal breakers for me when taken on their own, together they paint a worrying picture of where they're headed. So Chris, Allan, and he also suggests maybe Matt and Michael might have some suggestions. What are you doing about Google's recent choices, and where will you go? Can you recommend alternate services, calendaring, etc.? Love the shows, especially TechSNAP and Coda Radio, and of course, last, I support them all with the affiliate Chrome extensions. Eamon from the UK. Allan, has some of the stuff he's touched on, has this bothered you at all? Have you thought about this?
I didn't use Google Reader, so I don't know.
I'm surprised by that, to be honest. It seems like you'd find that useful.
Possibly, but I've just never used RSS, really.
Wow.
I get too much information coming into my brain as it is. I can't handle anymore.
And with social networking and so many other sites that aggregate now, it really does seem to be less.
Yeah, well, honestly, my current way of consuming stuff is also being shut down by Google. I use the iGoogle homepages, and they're killing those off in like November.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely fit into this camp myself. And I also agree it is a collection of things about Google that's bothering me. It's not one particular thing on its own. And I really use Reader not only as my main syncing conduit between all my RSS readers, but it's how I organize a lot of my podcasts. At least my master list. I track torrent and RSS feeds there. I mean, I even track client backup status reports that I have piped out to RSS that I subscribe to through a private Google Reader little plugin that I have. I mean, I'm really bummed about it.
I started using Google Calendar because at one point it was the best way to synchronize between my Windows phone and my Thunderbird.
Yep, that's why I started using Thunderbird.
And then, when I went to Android, it made even more sense.
Mm-hmm. This is a problem that we are going to tackle more and more on the Linux Action Show. I'm going to try to take on building. There's a few good open source projects out there to build your own Google Reader. I'm going to try to cover that. And also, a new version of OwnCloud has just come out. And OwnCloud's got a lot of the Google services that you run on your own server somewhere that you own yourself, and they keep adding more and more features to it. I think it's time for another look on Linux Action Show, so you guys might want to tune in for that, because they've also integrated news reading capabilities into OwnCloud now. So not only can OwnCloud do a lot of the other things the Google services can do, but it's going to be able to do like video playback and news and all that kind of stuff. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yep, and I just added a link to the show notes and in the show doc to an article on Slashdot that came up today, and it's like, post good Google, who will defend the open web?
Post good Google, huh? Wow.
Yes, we seem to pass the point where Google's out for the good of the web, where now they're out for the good of themselves. Right?
Well, that's not great, since Chrome is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. You know what I mean?
Right, but we've seen that they're starting to change direction a lot, right? Like Google Apps for your domain, Google Reader, iGoogle, a bunch of these different services are getting shut down or switching to a pay model.
Yes, that's true.
And, that makes sense, right? And it's, it's a business, it's their thing. Mm-hmm. But
it is kind of, for us, it's a little hard to adapt to. We have another email from Dandy Patty. You want to read that? You ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll get it. Here we go. So first he says, hi, Allan and Chris. And yes, he meant to put Allan first. He wants me to point out. I have a NIC smart switch for my new house. I wanted to use VLANs to allow some systems to use jumbo frames and others to use standard size frames as well as to set up a LACP lag for my server. I was under the impression that an LACP lag with two interfaces would effectively double the throughput for the system. When testing with iPerf and watching the network usage on the server side, I saw that traffic wasn't being split between the two interfaces. When I ran IPperf from two systems, the connections, for most part, would be split between the two interfaces. Was I wrong in thinking LACP multiplexed the two interfaces into one virtual interface, making it 1 gigabit, essentially a 2 gigabit aggregate? Or is this just a poor implementation on the switch? What do you think, Allan?
Very common misperception. Because of the way the Ethernet standard works, there's a specific rule about what's called frame ordering that says you can't just scatter the frames out different ports. So what LACP does is a hash. Basically, it looks at the source and destination MAC address, and I think most times the source and destination IP address, and in some implementations, the source and destination port numbers. And it hashes those and basically says, all the hashes, one half of the hashes go to this NIC and one half of the hashes go to this NIC, or 3 NICs or 4 NICs or however many NICs you have in your lag.
Mm-hmm.
Any single connection is only still going to use one NIC.
Mm-hmm.
If you have multiple connections between the same host, if it uses the port numbers, then it'll be split. But if it doesn't, it won't be. So then what you can do is alias IPs, right? If you're doing an internal LAN, you can say, all right, give this machine 3 IP addresses so I can spread the connections across those 3 so it'll use more of the NICs. It can also depend on your configuration on your hosts and such. Like, I was in a similar situation when I was testing on someone else's machine. I've actually been working on this specific problem for a little bit, or thinking about it anyway. I'm working on building a lab to see if I can't solve the problem in my basement.
Nice.
But FreeBSD's lag driver has an option called round robin, where it literally just sends every other packet out of the next NIC. Right? So when I was sending the data, I was sending at like 2 megabits. I was across 3 NICs, so it was sending like a third of the traffic out of each of the 3 NICs. But on the switch, when it would do its hashing, would send all the traffic down 1 NIC, and so it would get bottlenecked at 1 gigabit.
Mm-hmm.
It might depend on how configurable the switch is and stuff.
Yeah. This is a smart switch, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how.
I have a Netgear smart switch at home as well, so if I can get it working on that, I will definitely share my results.
Cool.
But nice. I'm also going to try playing with it without telling the switch about it.
Right.
So just wiring a bunch of ports together in a VLAN or something and just saying, hey, because the lag driver in FreeBSD will receive packets on any of the ports by default. So then if I just wire the 3 as 3 separate connections basically and don't let them know about each other, and then just basically fire the packets out 3 ports on this machine and have them receive on 3 ports on the other machine, maybe I can get it to do something interesting.
All right, well, stay tuned.
Because I think I would almost have to use separate VLANs on the switch side anyway, because otherwise the MAC table is going to say, I see the same MAC on 3 ports, so I just send it to the first port where I need it to actually send to multiple ports. So I don't know the solution yet, but I've explained why it does what it does. And yes, that is what it's supposed to do.
Unfortunately.
But I'm going to see if I can't make it do something else.
You know what it is.
Come up with some, even if it's a horribly obtuse thing. I have these ZFS servers with 4 gigabit NICs, and I need high speed between them.
Yes.
So even if it's a horrible hack, if it works, that's great.
Right.
Now, I'm kind of lucky in the fact that I can have point-to-point. Like, one option I was considering was literally just wiring the 2 NICs together without a switch at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's got 4 NICs. 3 of the NICs will just be wired dedicated to each other.
Yeah.
Although I would like it much better if I could wire it such that 4 machines could share the lag.
Oh, yeah.
But that might not be doable with the crazy hack.
Mr. Mark writes in, and he says, what do you think about Mint.com? Do you have any opinions on how secure the site might be? Since the site logs into your bank accounts and downloads data, It must have to know your login and passwords. Therefore, they cannot cryptographically be hashed, correct? How can this possibly be secure? With the amount of money involved in the unhashed bank account information for 10 million plus users, isn't it just a security nightmare scenario waiting to happen? What are your thoughts?
Kind of. I actually do use mint.com.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But so they have to store your password in some way that they can get back to plain text because they need your password to log in.
Yeah.
They also, for me anyway, have to have the answers to all my secret questions because my bank will randomly pop up a secret question when I try to log in. So they have to know the answers to all of my secret questions in addition to my username and password. And they have all of my banks in one place because I have multiple bank accounts. Right?
Isn't that kind of creepy?
Yep. Now I imagine they have some kind of actual encryption, so that would mean it's encrypted when it's stored, and then they decrypt it when they need to use it. One common way to do this is to encrypt my information with my account password. So in their database, all my information is encrypted, and the only way for them to decrypt it is with my mint.com password. So the key for their AES encryption would be my mint.com password, which is not stored on their system anywhere. It only has the hash, right? The cryptographic hash. So when I log in to mint.com, they verify my password with the cryptographic hash, and then they use the plaintext password I just provided to log in over SSL to decrypt the credentials to log into my bank, right? So that means as long as an attacker isn't actively monitoring the system and intercepting my password when I go to log in, they could at least partly securely store that information.
They have a couple of different pages on the Mint website dedicated to this very question. So they have their FAQ, and they talk about how they use different security practices to keep your data secure. And then they actually have a wider and more in-depth explanation talking about how they do this, the physical security at their data centers, and also things like that. Now, I've also heard that they will use an intermediary for some services, the same company that like your bank might use if you use online bill payment and things like that. So
right, and yeah, for some of them, the bank has an API for services like this, or they have outsourced to a company that has an API, and so it might not be as lame as logging into your bank account and scraping your history and stuff.
I think it might though for some. I think it probably depends on what your bank supports. So, all right. Well, we have a follow-up email here from John that I thought we should get to because I think some people...
What was it? Oh, there was another point, wasn't there?
Was there about Mint?
No, never mind.
No,
yeah, okay. I was just thinking, it's like the security questions.
Yeah. I mean, I worry about it too, but both of us are users, and I've been a user for a really long time. All right. So John wrote in and said, I have a follow-up to the very first question that was asked on episode 100, and if you guys don't recall, that was... patching across multiple operating systems. And we were kind of like, there's not maybe necessarily a great way, but Puppet might do it. So John writes in, he says, by the way, congrats on episode 100. And for patching third-party software, check out Secuna, SECUNIA.com. He also mentions LogMeIn Pro with Central has the ability to push software, though he's not so sure it works with the Mac. But that's one way, too, is you can push any software package through the LogMeIn Pro with Central. But he recommends people check out Secuna, SECUNIA.com. So if you're looking for patching,
they do security advisories for stuff. I think they have a service where you can more easily find out about advisories against all your software. But like with open source software, basically you'd have to subscribe to the mailing list of like Apache if you use it, and PHP if you use it, and MySQL if you use it, and so on. Where they do this for more commercial software that sometimes it's not as easy to find out about.
We have a little bit of a technical snafu this week. I had a machine die from a power outage, and so we're rerouting audio differently, and we're using the audio input that we would normally use for voicemails, because we never really have voicemails on the TechSNAP program, right? That's never been a problem before, so I'll just use the voicemail. Well, guess what? This week we have a voicemail, and it's from Jed, and he's an awesome guy that we've known for years, and also just recently did a voicemail for Recorded Radio. I won't be able to play it this week because Allan is currently plugged into the voicemail port. But Allan, you kind of remember what the voicemail was about, right?
Yeah. Also, your second link isn't right.
For what?
You have a link of him wearing the shirt, but that's not him. That's someone else, and he shared the photo.
Oh, you're right. Google Plus, you crazy cat.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was writing about using LVM and MD ADM the two other RAID-like things under Linux, and he was talking about creating sparse mirrors. So basically, if you want to make a setup that's going to have more disks, so that in the future you can add additional disks.
Yeah.
He recommended using MDADM and basically using memory disks to hold as like placeholders for the disks you're going to add in the future. So you can create the RAID and then you just swap out the memory disk for the actual ones. And I don't know, it seems kind of interesting. But the nice thing with ZFS is that you can use the ZFS attach command to add disks to a pool after the fact. Now, you can't do it with RAID, right? If you're doing like RAID Z or 1 or 2 or whatever, you can't add additional devices to the RAID Z itself, although you can add additional RAID Zs or mirrors to your Z pool, right? Because the whole point of ZFS is being able to add disks later. So I had a setup where I had one disk, right? It was a ZFS on a single disk, and I was like, all right, I've added a second disk because I want to have mirroring on this machine because it's important, right? So then I just do zpool attach, the name of my zpool, the name of the existing device, and the name of the new device, and it just stuck it in there, moved the device from a regular VDEV to a mirror VDEV, and basically did the resilver, and now I have mirroring. I went from not having mirroring to having mirroring, which is something that you normally can't do under RAID. And then, I can add additional mirrors too, right? So I can end up with three-way mirroring if I want. Or another option is if you have a mirror, right, a setup with two disks, and you want more space, you can add a second mirror. And then what it actually does is something like RAID 10, right? You have two mirrors, and then you're striping across those two mirrors. So all your data is still redundantly stored, but you're getting two sets of mirrors, so you're getting the additional write speed as well. And like we talked about before, you can mix and match, right? Like I have a current setup that's 8 disks in a RAID Z2. Now I can add a 2-disk mirror to that with different sized disks, and that'll work. Or I can add, another 8-disk RAID Z2 or a 10-disk RAID Z1 or whatever I want. So it's very expandable. But Jed's voicemail talks about ways of basically putting placeholders in your RAID so that you could add to it later. And while that might be an option, a volume manager that lets you expand the pool as required is just much nicer.
Yeah. So Jed, sorry we couldn't play that on the show this week. Go figure. That's what happened. But if it makes you feel better, I was pulling my hair out right before the show trying to make it all work. I don't know if that makes him feel better at all, Allan. Probably not. So we did get some pictures of folks out there that got their TechSNAP 100 shirt. I just want to give a quick mention, too. If you've got a shirt, send it in to us. Take a picture of you wearing your shirt and email it to Angela at jupiterbroadcasting.com, and you'll probably see it show up in a future photo show.
Admittedly, the shirts turned out even better than I was expecting.
Yeah, you like it? Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I really
like the QR code in the back is just much more detailed than I thought it was going to come out. I thought it was going to not look great, but it actually looked amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And we have it forwards to jupiterbroadcasting.com/episode 100, I believe, which should work now. But we got a couple of people here while we're talking about them. Here's one that was sent in by JB19 in the TechSNAP subreddit. He's called it Christmas in March, and he sent in he got 2 shirts. And we also had Jed.
I got 8.
We got Jed's picture, and we also got, now look at this, Allan. Somebody decided that they wanted to, be inspired from the shirt. Did you see this? I don't know if you actually got a chance to see this. Rick on the subreddit sent this in. He did a high-resolution Blender image of patched poo, and it looks really good. It looks, like you could set that as your background, no problemo. It's a nice looking pile of poo with some band-aids on it. So yes. Take a picture of yourself in the TechSNAP 100 shirt and email it to Angela at jupiterbroadcasting.com, and you just might see you and your shirt show up in a future episode of the Faux Show. All right. So now if you want to get a hold of the show, you can email us, techsnap at jupiterbroadcasting.com, or go to the contact link and then just choose TechSNAP from the drop-down menu, and it'll automatically make it to us. Or start a thread in that subreddit, and we'll not only can we carried in the show, which is great. But then people in the community can comment on it and perhaps give you an answer a little faster than we can, which is always awesome too. But Allan, with the email all done, that means it's time for the TechSNAP Roundup. And welcome to the TechSNAP Roundup. Yeah, that's what that crazy music means. Now, the Roundup were stories that didn't quite fit into the top of the show. We still want to talk about them, maybe give you some links to follow up on your own after the show. And a lot of these links are supplied by our subreddit over at links.techsnap.tv. Mr. Jude, are you ready for our first Roundup story, sir?
Yes.
All right, I'll take this one. This one came in because it actually, you probably recall, we covered this on the show when it happened. It affected me. My credentials were leaked online from this. The hacker, known as Weave, or I guess maybe you could call him the troll, was sentenced to 41 months in prison due to that iPad AT&T URL hack that he came up with, where on the iPads you could sign up for AT&T 3G service, and all of your info was in the URL. It's just they weren't displaying the URL, so you never saw it. And once that guy figured it out, he just said, well, it's just in the URL right here, and he exposed it, and of course, now you get 41 months in prison.
And the interesting thing about this is basically this information was publicly posted on AT&T's public website.
Yeah.
And he found it.
Yes.
And therefore he's guilty.
Right.
That does not make any sense.
Now, he did leak the database, right? I mean, my credentials were...
Right, but it was public information, so he didn't steal it. It was posted. It's AT&T's fault, not his.
I agree. This is something cool that we love PCBSD here on the show, which, did we even get a chance to mention they switched to a rolling release?
They haven't actually switched yet. It's still a beta.
That's coming.
But I talked to Chris about it quite a bit, and maybe we'll talk about that next week or a week after.
I look forward to that.
I'm going to see if I can't get him to come on for an interview.
Oh, I would really look forward to that. Well, anyway, so this is his house that he's doing this at, right? This blog?
Yeah, so basically in his backyard, they're building a mini data center to house the build farm, because they're going to be using FreeBSD's new package system called Package NG, next generation. And basically, their plan is to rebuild the entire FreeBSD ports tree once every 2 weeks to support the rolling release.
So he's building this at his house to put a bunch of machines in there to do the crunching.
Yes, because it's got to compile 24,000 applications every 2 weeks.
I mean, that's awesome. That's a little mom and pop, but I love it. I mean, look, you're talking to a guy who's broadcasting from his garage right now.
Yeah. So
This is cool. So we've covered the first article, and now this is the second post on his blog of him building basically a little server room.
The first one was about the building the physical room, and now it's about how he does some of the air conditioning
and the power.
And it's got temperature sensors, and he's working on adding a generator.
We'll have a link to that in the show notes if you want to read through that, especially if you've been thinking about doing something at home.
It's a build cluster, so if it goes offline for a little while, it just means package set maybe doesn't get built, but it's not critical infrastructure to supporting the PCBSD project.
There's got to be tips and tricks in there.
If it's down for a couple hours, it won't hurt anything.
Right? Yeah. Go check that out, you guys. That's a fun read.
But yes, just a quick recap on that. They plan to be using all the packages be updated once every 2 weeks. About that number's not locked in yet, but fairly quickly. That way, new Firefox comes out, you can get it quickly. They're going to run their own FreeBSD update server, and instead of pushing just security updates, they'll also include driver updates and some other changes. So like non-breaking changes, but and they will be cutting their own version of FreeBSD from the stable branch. So they'll be using 9 stable instead of the release. So instead of using 9.1, it'll be basically 9-stable, which is 9.1 plus everything that's been merged from the head version, and eventually that will be snapshot and become 9.2. So you'll be getting the features of 9.2 sooner via their system. Because on a desktop, you need more, you need stuff. Basically, development can happen a little quicker than what you probably want on a server.
Yes.
And so, they'll be doing that. So their own FreeBSD update, their own package repository, and basically updating the OS more often. Target is like once every 6 months, which is when FreeBSD releases are supposed to come out. But the last little while, they haven't been coming as quickly.
Right. All right. So you have linked in the roundup to an article from Bruce Schneier, who is, we've talked, Schneier, am I saying that right?
Schneier.
Yeah, he's covered a lot of things we've covered on this show. He's got an interesting proposition over on Wired, where he says we're going back to a feudalism state where instead of the king, we have these, I guess, information kings, Gmail and fiefdoms. Yeah. And he also goes on to make the point that we're kind of back to this security used to be based around the user, but now we're sort of just committing to these guys to keep us safe. We're trusting in them in a sense.
Yes, I love the big quote here. I pledge allegiance to the United States of convenience.
Oh, wow. We were just talking about Mint, right? And then that kind of hits close to home, doesn't it? He's right.
It's like feudalism actually can provide security, right? Classic medieval feudalism depends on overlapping, complex, hierarchical relationships. They're, obligations, right? A series of rights and privileges you get in exchange for your oath
committing allegiance.
Fiefdom. A critical aspect of the system was protection, right? You as a vassal would pledge your allegiance to a lord, and in return, that lord would protect you from other people or bad guys or whatever. Yeah, and like he says, he's romanticizing it a bit. European history was never that simple, but that was the model. And so, we have fiefdoms like Google, Facebook, Apple, etc. And you seem to get locked into these ecosystems now. Now, some of them are better than others. Like Google offers a data export tool. You can usually get any data you put into Google, you can usually get it out. Whereas Apple is usually not that easy to get your data out and go somewhere else. But, it's an interesting read. That's why it's in the roundup.
There you go. Now, another thing that's kind of perked our interest, although there's not a ton of technical details on this one, but South Korea, a bunch of different networks have gone under attack, including the national broadcast system, some defense systems, and according to people who were there, the reports are the machines were rebooted, and then they would start to either boot up and a bunch of skulls would come up on the screen, or they would get a boot disk not found error message. Have you heard about this, Allan?
No.
So now they're pointing fingers right now. South Korea is pointing fingers at North Korea. And according to this article in the New York Times, they're saying, of course, because you can't have a hacking cybersecurity story without involving China. So what they're saying is the North Koreans went to China, honed their skills, and then went back to North Korea to then hack South Korea. So we got a good China link here. Now, although I will point out that this is a direct quote from the New York Times article, and it's from Adam Siegel, who is a senior fellow who specializes in China and cyber conflict at the Council of Foreign Relations. He says, and I quote, "I've never seen any real evidence that points to any exchanges between China and North Korea." So that part of the article, I'm not sure where the New York Times is getting that, since in the same exact article they have that quote from a specialist. But the malware was called Dark Soul. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we covered some clips on Unfilter. Actually, at the top of Unfilter 42, there was an interview, and the CNN gal gets on a reporter from South Korea, and he starts talking about how his computer was having these problems. And instead of the reporter asking him, like, do you know where it was from? Do you know how you got the infection? Do you know if, maybe it's just malware spreading around your network? Do you have anti-malware? Instead of asking any of those questions, the question she asked him was, did you try rebooting your computer?
Did you try turning it off and on again?
She literally asked, the reporter asked that question.
Now, if she had phrased it properly, it would have been funny instead of making her look stupid. If she had just said, "Did you try turning it off and on again?"
And the guy said,
everybody would have she would have been an internet star immediately.
And the guy says, "Of course we tried that." Yeah, and it just goes to show you these reporters are just completely out of their element when it comes to the cybersecurity stuff, and they just totally their eyes glaze over. They don't even know where to go. So pretty wild. All right, Allan. Well, Bank of America says that hackers lifted data from a partner, not from Bank of America itself.
Yes, so Bank of America was paying a company called TechSystem to keep an eye on what Anonymous was doing, especially since Anonymous had been making threats about attacking Bank of America or releasing data they had stolen from Bank of America.
This company got a big fatty contract from Bank of America just to watch hacker groups?
Yeah, specifically Anonymous. And then Anonymous broke in and stole the emails between Bank of America, TechSystem, and some other places. But Bank of America wants to make it clear that all the data that was stolen was from TechSystem, not from Bank of America.
Right, of course.
Even though it included emails from Bank of America because they were received by TechSystem.
Bank of America.
And I have two links there that go into more detail because I didn't have time to read it all. That's what's in the roundup. But it's pretty funny.
Bank of America ought to just watch the TechSNAP program. We keep tabs on those guys all the time. All right, well, this one might make your blood pressure go up a little bit, and I guess it's good news for Amazon. The CIA is reportedly closing a $600 million deal to buy isolated private EC2 instances from Amazon to have a big old CIA compute cluster in the cloud.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they need more data centers.
Amazon is overpriced.
Yeah. Hey, CIA, let me tell you about Scale Engine, okay? This guy right here.
It's just like, for $600 million, they could have built their own bloody cluster.
Oh, they are. Oh, remember? They're building that huge data center. They're building that giant... Yeah. Oh, that's the NSA. That's right. That's the NSA.
Right. But yeah, it is. But still, it's like $600 million. Like, even if it's for a lot of years... Yeah, EC2 instances are expensive. Keeping one machine on at EC2 24/7, it's like $300 a month. You can rent dedicated servers from some, bigger hardware from somewhere else cheaper. Right? You're paying a premium at Amazon for your ability to be able to turn it on and off whenever you need, right?
Yeah.
To use it like a utility. And so if you're using it for your base load, you're doing it wrong.
So this was at North Virginia.
So my concern with it is not to do with what the CIA is going to do with the giant compute cluster or that they're dealing with. My concern there is that they could have got a better deal.
Well, of course. Surprise, surprise there. Speaking to the Northern Virginia Technology Council Board of Directors on March 12th, CIA Agency Chief Information Officer Janine Teisinger told an audience of several dozen people, how the CIA is leveraging the commercial sector's innovation cycle, looking for cost efficiencies in commodity IT and using software as a surface for common solutions. They say they're working with companies like Amazon.
Yeah, it's just, Amazon's kind of expensive.
Yeah. All right, Allan, let's talk about the era of digital mercenaries. That's your line, right? Isn't that a thing? Or is that just an extra link that you have? That might have been just an extra link.
I don't know what you're looking at.
I don't either.
I have no link that has anything to do with any of that in my show doc.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Anyway, next report. Reporters Without Borders is naming governments and the companies they hire to spy on their citizens. They have surveillance.rsf.org, and they have big detail there. Well, RSF is Reporters Without Borders. It's just spelled funny. The acronym's funny because I think it's originally French.
I like that.
That's why it's RSF instead of, I don't know, RWB or whatever.
All right.
Anyway, so they have a report there specifically talking about the companies governments hire to spy on their citizens, especially repressive governments in, the Middle East and Europe and so on. And they also have a toolkit to protect yourself from being surveilled.
Oh.
So some people might be interested in that as well.
Speaking of getting surveilled, a new Trojan that's floating around the web today as we record this program is focusing specifically on OS X, and its purpose is to inject ads into Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. It even monitors like Apple's website. It's called Trojan.Yontu, and it's by a Russian security. That's who detected this. And if you look at it here, it looks like almost like a little legitimate, like, you need this free, you ready for this? TwitTube app. And you install this free TwitTube app, which, come on, people. Once you install that, Bob's your uncle. You could even show, so what they've shown here is like, you could be browsing like apple.com and looking at like iPad models, and they will automatically insert and overlay links to their own products over the buttons you would use to click on the iPad.
Nice.
Yeah. So they're going after some high-profile sites. You figure you target Mac users. Probably makes sense to go after apple.com, right?
Yep.
According to Symantec, a Windows version does not indeed exist, although it reportedly does not affect Windows 8 and is centered around Facebook ads on the Windows platform. Just swap it in and out. You're doing some Apple stuff. Oh, you need to do some Facebook stuff. Yeah, we got you taken care of. We got your malware platform. Sell it to you for a great rate.
Yep.
All right. This one's not good for those of us who are expecting tax returns anytime soon. Software glitch will delay 600,000 U.S. tax returns, according to the IRS.
So if you used H&R Block's tax software or a couple of other ones, there's a bug in the way they did a specific education tax credit. So only if you claim this one particular credit, your tax return will be delayed by 4 to 6 weeks because they have to manually recalculate it because the software did it wrong. Intuit and another company were quick to comment that their software didn't have that bug.
We don't have that problem.
It seems like something this would be caught by automatic testing. It seems like you should, for your tax stuff, it should just, the rules of your taxes are pretty known, and so
or software updates.
Yeah,
push out a patch.
It doesn't help if they don't discover it till after, right?
Oh yeah, people have already filed. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why they're being delayed. Like H&R Block has already fixed this, but the people who already filed. And an interesting stat, Walmart reported that as of that post, which was a week or two ago now, people had cashed $2.7 billion worth of tax refund checks at Walmart. Usually by this time of the year, it's $4 billion. Part of the reason being that, first of all, the government delayed the tax season by 8 days while they were implementing new tax changes having to do with the fiscal cliff.
Sequester!
No, this was fiscal cliff. It was before sequester.
My buddy Chase on the Unfilter, his tax return's been delayed because, and they told him because of the sequester. So I don't know. They have several different reasons. It sounds like
I need to check on mine because I should get mine soon.
I love. So you got a tax bug that's causing delay. You got fiscal cliff delays. You got sequester delays. I wonder which group I'll get lumped into. That'll be exciting to find out. All right, Alan. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show, doesn't it?
Yep.
All right. So, couple basic essential things we got to cover. They're like eating your vegetables. You got to join us live one of these times. If you haven't treated yourself, join us live. You get a lot more show. Like you missed our nice Bitcoin discussion we had during the. Of course, if you don't like Bitcoin, you don't miss that at all. But that's just an example. There's stuff that happens. You don't get to see it unless you join us live. You can do that by going over to jblive.tv Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, which is
4 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. Actually, it might not be 2100 UTC.
Yeah, it's changing, right? Soon.
Yeah.
Like Saturday?
Well, no, we changed and they haven't yet.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's 2000 UTC again. We're back to 2000 UTC.
And that is Tokyo time? What's that, Alan?
Tokyo time is 11 hours ahead, so it would be 3 a.m. in the morning.
All right, so if you're in Tokyo at 3 a.m., join us over at jblive.tv. Also, you can go to jblive.info to get the audio stream. That's great if you're in the car or maybe you're sitting at a desk and they don't want you streaming video. I can't imagine why they might have an issue with that. That's crazy to me. And then, of course, the show is available for download Thursday evenings over at Jupiter Broadcasting, Friday mornings, depending where you're at in the world. And don't forget there's RSS feeds. You can subscribe to the show and get it automatically. And also,
my tax refund was done today.
Hey, well, look at that. Nice. Look at you.
I should receive it in 2 days.
Very nice, sir. I was going to say, you can also support the network and help us with our costs by using our affiliate links. We have those at the bottom of the Jupiter Broadcasting website for Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy, ThinkGeek. If you click there before you shop, a portion of your shopping session is contributed to the network, and that helps us out with our costs. Also, we have links down there for browser extensions. Those include affiliates for even more sites like Monoprice, etc. So you grab one of those extensions for Chrome or Firefox, and it automatically tags your shopping session. You don't have to think about it. It's a nice way to contribute something to our network without impacting your budget, because it just happens when you're getting yourself something anyways. So you get something, and we get something. So we appreciate everybody who does that. All right, Alan. Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, and thank you.
And we'll see you right back here next week, everyone. And don't forget, we want your email. So email us, techsnap@jupiterbroadcasting.com. But until then, you go have yourself a great week.